So great to see you all here in person, and so fantastic to congratulate you all and to introduce Hamza Walker. Thank you, Delinda. Delinda Collier is the grad dean of our school, but also a member of our faculty, and our program wouldn't be the success it is today without Delinda's contribution as faculty and also your guidance as grad dean. Thank you so much. And thank you to President Alyssa Tenney. This program was started by the inspiration of then Dean Lisa Wainwright and then Provost Alyssa Tenney. And I had the great good fortune of being asked to be the program director, which I've enjoyed for, I think, almost 10 years. So thank you very much. I'm going to start. You've heard me read this before, but I always want to read it at the beginning and end of every session. It's a poem by Robert Duncan, very important poet to me, and it is actually the inspiration for the curriculum of the low-res program. So I will read this poem and then make a short introduction for Hamza. Often I am permitted to return to a meadow as if it were a scene made up by the mind that is not mine, but is a made place that is mine. It is so near to the heart, an eternal pasture folded in all thought, so that there is a hall therein that is a made place created by light, wherefrom the shadows that are forms fall. Wherefrom fall all architectures I am. I say are likenesses of the first beloved, whose flowers are flames lit to the lady. She it is, queen under the hill, whose hosts are a disturbance of words within words, that is a field folded. It is only a dream of the grass blowing east against the source of the sun, in an hour before the sun's going down, whose secret we see in a children's game, a ring around of roses told. Often I am permitted to return to a meadow, as if it were a given property of the mind, that certain bounds hold against chaos, that is a place of first permission, everlasting omen of what is. It's a great honor to address the graduating students of School of the Art Institute of Chicago Low Residency MFA program 2022, and to introduce our commencement speaker, Hamza Walker. To the graduate students today, I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations. I know how hard you worked and the challenges that you faced to get here. You endured 2 years of this program through a terrible pandemic lockdown, and yet you persevered, making art and studying assiduously through the means we had available to us, keeping our standards high and our spirits higher still. And we are here now, fortunate to share this summer's fully in-person summer residency. This summer too had its challenges, but your commitments never waver. I admire each and every one of you for that. I want to take this moment to recognize and acknowledge our faculty and staff, because they can't be acknowledged enough. So thank you to the faculty and staff who make this program work. Without them, the program would not be able to deliver the high quality of education that engenders the commitments of all of us studying together. Now I return to you graduates today, all of you having honed your skill, taking risks in your studios, and absorbing the lessons shared with your cohort. You are a community that's part of a larger community. Carry forward what you learned. Continue to work together. Organize and support each other. Return often to that place of first permission that Robert Duncan so eloquently celebrated as a given property of the mind that certain bounds hold against chaos. Remember that this program continues to exist for you as you remain alumni. Many of you know Hamza Walker as a member of the faculty of our program. Currently, he is fully engaged and committed to his role as director of LAXART, a nonprofit space in Los Angeles. Prior to joining LAXART in 2016, Hamza was director of education and associate curator at the Renaissance Society at the University of Chicago. There are many important shows that Hamza has organized, both at LAXART and at the Renaissance Society. It is a venerable and venerated history, and I encourage you to look at the full bio online. We're very fortunate to have Hamza teach in the program and also to be making shows. I do want to say that Hamza won the Walter Hopps Award for Curatorial Achievement and the Ordway Prize for Impact on the Field of Contemporary Art. Hamza Walker is one of the most influential curators of our times, and he is a much beloved teacher and colleague. Hamza, you are an extraordinary source of solar energy. Your contributions lift all of us up to that pasture folded in all thought, a place of first permission, everlasting omen of what is. Hamza Walker, thank you for generously sharing your genius. Please welcome Hamza Walker.
So honored to be here. Really, really, really moved by being here. I still remember a bet that I made with Zoe Leonard at the very first, or at least the first graduating class. And I bet Zoe Leonard, we put money on it. And I said, oh, I'm not gonna cry. And Zoe said, you're gonna cry. I didn't just cry, I was bawling. And so we'll see if my mascara holds up today. And I know these are really difficult times on any number of fronts. And so I decided to take something of a different tact than fight the power. But I'm saying that so that it be said, fight the power. So now that that's out of the way. How did you get here this afternoon? How did you get involved in this racket? What was your gateway drug? You are all makers. Indulge me for a second while I speak as a convert come consumer of contemporary art. So what made you a convert? Was it a urinal? A curved wall of Corten steel? A pile of candy? A can of shit? A date painted so starkly as to be an irrefutable fact whose significance, if any, was beyond you? Was it a series of open plywood boxes of varying depth? Or perhaps a video of the most insane Rube Goldberg device you could ever imagine, one that doubled as an allegory for the revolutions giving birth to modernity? Or maybe it was a retrospective of all white paintings you caught during your first trip to San Francisco. Or maybe it was the neon sign outside the Baltimore Museum of Art, which flashed the words silence, violence, violins, alternately and then all at once. At 17 years old, it never entered your mind that this was art. It was simply the coolest thing ever. Or maybe it was a performance, one featuring a young woman, naked and enraged, so much so, she moved you to tears. Tears driven by an alternating current of empathy and guilt. Or was it a performance featuring a couple in a cage in the atrium of the Natural History Museum? The two strutting back and forth, occasionally striking poses as though they were mannequins in the window of a shabby chic consignment boutique celebrating Dia de los Muertos. Or was it a performance by a self-proclaimed tantric goddess who at the close of the evening's first half put her feet in stirrups, had a speculum inserted between her spread legs, and invited the audience to have a look at her cervix? Or was it a staged reading of excerpts from a 2,000-page slab of depositions comprising the final report of the Attorney General's Commission on Pornography, aka the Meese Report, a comprehensive investigation into pornography undertaken by the Reagan administration? Or maybe the gateway drug was a recital of a nonsense poem whose opening line, "Ribble, bobble, pimlico," became part of your mouth's muscle memory after the first time you said it. Or maybe it wasn't merely the art itself, but the rhetorical allure of words like anomie, facture, seriality, and de-skilling. Or essays with titles like Allegorical Procedures, Figures of Authority, Ciphers of Regression. Maybe the gateway drug was that neo-Marxist art historian's lecture on negational strategy. You and your friend Mary Markey were the only attendees, which didn't faze the lecturer one bit, not even during the Q&A. Or maybe the gateway drug was a black and white photograph, cropped so as to eliminate the upper and lower portions of a black man in a business suit, his large cock spilling out from the zipper, his hands there not to stuff it back inside, but to offer an awkward apology. Or maybe it was other photographs in the room, the ones boldly objectifying their subject. These made you want to dwell in gay quarters, if only to consume images you found in short supply, namely those of tenderness toward black men. Or maybe it was the opposite end of the spectrum, photographs appropriated from magazines featuring monster trucks and white biker chicks flashing their titties. If we concede that Freud was right and our sexual development is rooted in what he referred to as the Oedipus complex, the Oedipal complex, I think it should be noted that male heterosexuality is synonymous with the birth of tragedy. Or maybe your curiosity was piqued after being caught between the Scylla and Charybdis of repression on the one hand and utter indifference on the other. When visiting museums, various institutes, and museums of contemporary art, what the hell is one supposed to do with a configuration of stuffed animals in one instance, and then the wan painting of a gas chamber the next? Or maybe you had been initiated into the cult of the contemporary in a manner of which you were wholly unaware. What if the gateway drug came in the form of album covers? One in particular featuring a burning candle, which you mistook as being appropriated from a Hallmark card rather than being the work of the so-called greatest living painter. Or maybe your drive toward explicitness got the better of you, in which case you were a young punk repulsed by and simultaneously attracted to Black Flag album covers. Or maybe it was in your best friend's father's record collection. Flipping through his albums, you would stumble upon two of Andy's calling cards, first edition copies of The Velvet Underground and Nico, and the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers. Or maybe as a young punk, you were so crushed out on Sammy Altstein's sister Rachel that you'd go with her and her friends to various temples of culture, public, private, commercial, or otherwise, where the only work you understood was text-based and unwaveringly direct. On the surface of one painting was stenciled the sentence, "Fuck 'em if they can't take a joke." And etched into a nearby marble bench was the question, what urges will save us now that sex won't? These not only appealed to your puerile streak, they reinforced it. Maybe contemporary art ain't that bad, after all. Rather than a bitter pill, maybe the gateway drug was sugar in the form of an awe-inspiring colossal mammy sphinx, buns up kneeling, a work that unwittingly served to belittle whatever claims to artistic freedom Jason Rhodes may have been staking with Black Pussy, his bar-cum installation. Or, on a more reverential note, maybe the gateway drug was a cycle of 5 paintings meant to commemorate the 1960s. Each features a black female angel, dare I say, of history, to which I'm sure none other than Walter Benjamin and Giotto would have been able to relate. But I don't know if the latter would have resorted to glitter to illustrate his angel's wings. Then again, maybe gold leaf was the glitter of its day. Or maybe the gateway drug was a 17-minute film on coltan, which is a tall story to tell. Relative to a topic teeming with documentaries, the artist's approach was unapologetically abstract. Compressed within 17 minutes is a meditation on empire and the fascinating portrait of an ore that symbolizes a history far from healed, as our global economic order is unable to dissociate itself from its blood-soaked imperialist predecessor. Or maybe the gateway drugs took hold because of genetic predisposition, which is a way of saying maybe you were born into it, albeit through another discipline. Your father and godfather, both drummers, getting high the night you were born, and somehow convincing a cop to use his siren and give them an emergency escort to Beth Israel Hospital. It wasn't until college, when you were interviewed about becoming a DJ at WHPK, that you consciously laid claim to any kind of cultural patrimony. Your knowledge of jazz up to that point then became the groundwork for a full-fledged embrace of improvised music and free jazz, Chicago being one of that genre's epicenters. I probably would not have stayed in Chicago were it not for the AACM, the Association for the Advancement of Creative Music, whose best-known members include Anthony Braxton, Henry Threadgill, Wadad Alio-Smith, and the Art Ensemble of Chicago. There was only one way to find out if there were still trace amounts of the AACM Kool-Aid in the hard Chicago water. You would have to stay and drink deep. Having fallen in with a group of new music presenters referring to themselves as the nomads of modern music, you didn't just drink the Kool-Aid, you mainlined it. You've been chasing that high ever since. On the one hand, you wanted to replicate the effects of those gigs in the visual arts. Could exhibitions do that? Maybe, maybe not. To a great extent, the drug didn't matter. I wanted to get high, but perhaps of greater importance, I wanted to share my high. So let me begin again. My name is Hamza Walker, and I'm a cultural addict. Or put another way, from a curator to a room full of artists, without you, I'm nothing. One of the best things about art is that no one asked for it. This begs the question, when I look at art, what then am I looking for? But I'm not so much looking for something as much as I'm looking at something. In other words, art teaches me to look at something without necessarily looking for something. The cultivation of an actively absorptive looking, a looking turned listening, and a listening turned caring. I look to care for that for which I did not ask. I look to care for that which I did not ask. When we speak of attention, paying attention, pay attention, motherfuckers, to quote Bruce Nauman, are we not speaking of care? Why should I look? Why should I care? This question sounds cruel on its surface, but it's a question that confronts me before each and every work. Why should I care? Does my care have limits? Does this require an extension of my care? I look to care. Teach me to care. Without you, I'm nothing. Do I have a soul? Teach me to care. I've never been a fan of a lofty humanist rhetoric about art and the stirring of sentiments. If anything, I'm attracted to its opposite, an anti-humanist rhetoric suggesting that the work of art doesn't stir the sentiments as much as it reflects an inner barrenness. This is a humanism under duress from forces both outside and within ourselves. Just as soon as I'm asking for the dismantling of the fascist, hetero-patriarchal order, I still find myself before the work of art asking that it teach me to care. I did not ask for the work of art, yet I ask that it teach me to care. Please, please, please teach me to care. Affirm my soul's existence. At times, my request is flatly denied. Under the rubric of refusal, the art says, no, I will not, I cannot. If anything, I want to hear you beg for it. More importantly, in this damn near empty gallery, I want you to hear yourself begging for affirmation. A dominatrix come vindicatrix of my own making? Perhaps. So I get in my car and go to the next gallery. To look at what? I do not know. In search of what? A spanking? Some cuddles? I did not ask for the work of art, yet I ask that it teach me to care. You have to be brave to be an artist. The steadfast resolve to be an artist, to make something for which no one asked, is in and of itself an act of defiance. You're compelled to tell your story, whether or not somebody wants to hear it. You put yourself out there. You make yourself vulnerable. You extend yourselves in ways that others fear to. You expose yourselves in blind faith that someone will relate. No one asked for your gifts, but you give them anyway. And for me, the gift, in addition to the work itself, is the care it solicits. I saw plenty of work yesterday to which I could relate, about which, from one work to the next, I learned to care. I learned about your brothers, your children, your communities, your struggles, your doubts, your anxieties, your obsessions, Chicano, Cholo, Mulatix, Latinx. I can see forest for the teas. What about the honeybees? Who will save me? I need armor, over and under, fetish forged, talisman etched, mothered by fire, mothered by Mina. Show no mercy, give mercy a show. All things being equal, would you rather pay or play date in the cyanotype wilderness? Terra dystopia, rape of the earth. She needs a good lawyer. Is that Saul Goodman on the other end of that phone line? Black salt, basalt, bowl of healing, box of rain. I don't know who put it there. Amazon worker, maybe? Breast pumped, balls deflated, toxic anonymity. I'll have that Pesto-Bismol. American pelt. Who knew the Chinese had skin in that game? Eat me, solve it. Eat me, solve it. One man's riddle is another man's riddling. Communion wafers in the temple of attention. But you know what pushers say? The first hit's always free. Thank you.